And you're watching Sporting Icons.
Okay, so I put a post out here on YouTube early this morning, or under normal circumstances, I'd just do a video and just give you my thoughts. But I was traveling, so I didn't have time to do a video, but it was a good opportunity to gauge a lot of your thought process, which is that Team GB are allowing select pro boxers potentially representing Team GB, Great Britain, for the Olympic Games in Paris 2024. And it is important to note as well that this could be the last Olympic Games that boxing will be participating in, because currently it's not looking good for 2028 and then onwards. It really isn't. Now, going by a lot of your comments, listen, a lot of you share the same thought process as I do, which is that should a pro be allowed to go into the amateurs? Is it an unfair advantage? Because obviously a professional has already been through the amateurs. They've now turned pro. They've got a whole lot more experience. Is it unfair for them to be going to fight amateurs? Now, I'm with you on that one. I do understand. I fully understand what it is that a lot of you are talking about. But I think from maybe Team GB's perspective, it might be a case of, well, other countries are doing it and our guys and girls could end up getting beaten by these professionals. So rather than just keep on following and towing the line of just set amateurs, maybe balance it out a little bit by having some professionals in there. Which is why I kind of said about Tyson Fury. And the reason I said Tyson Fury is because, firstly, he could be retiring. And if that is true, if he does end up retiring, maybe this might be something for him to add to his trophy cabinet, if you like. An Olympic medal. Would he get a gold medal? Again, some people, when I said that in the comment section, was a case of maybe Tyson wouldn't want to do it because of what happened in 2008, i.e. they chose David Price over him. Of course, Tyson, he was then looking to represent Ireland for the Olympics, but his lineage or something wasn't strong enough. I forget the exact story for it. But I thought, well, maybe now, obviously, we're like 14 years on. Well, it'll be 16 years, really, won't it, by the time Paris 2022 comes around. Maybe that's all water under the bridge now. Again, let's not forget that when Tyson Fury turned pro, he had Rob McCracken as his trainer. Okay, he was his first trainer as a professional. Obviously, he was training Carl Froch, and of course, he was with Tyson Fury at that particular moment. Tyson Fury made his pro debut on Carl Froch's undercard. So maybe time's gone past. Why not? Obviously, Rob McCracken, for those of you who don't know, he's the current, I don't know, some kind of leader. He's an important person. In fact, he's probably the most important person for amateur boxing. And of course, he's probably the one who's actually going to be selecting the Team GB for the Olympic Games, for the qualifiers, all that kind of stuff. So maybe Tyson Fury could, if of course he was to vacate. If he does vacate and he does retire, I mean, there might be an opportunity for it. Again, of course, going by the last Olympic Games in Tokyo in Japan, the WBC, for example, they put out a statement saying that any professionals who joined up with the amateur system to go to the Olympic Games, they're going to be given, I think it was a 2-year ban by the WBC, meaning that they can't fight for any WBC sanctioned bouts. Now, if Tyson Fury vacates the WBC belt anyway, retires, then it'll make no difference, will it? It really won't. And I did think about Tyson, not only because he wasn't selected in 2008, which was the right decision, by the way, at that time, but because his style, because he's a pure boxer, he might be okay. Now, for those of you who watch amateur style boxing, it is very, very scrappy. It's just two guys, two girls coming in the center of the ring, just slugging it out. That seems to be pretty much amateur, okay? But, of course, there are a lot of good ones. Obviously, people will immediately think about the Cubans and all that kind of thing, and maybe because they're used to doing like 3 rounds, for example, Tyson may struggle. Which is true, he may struggle. But it's not just going to be a case of Rob McCracken will call up Tyson Fury and say, hey, Tyson, you want to represent GB for Paris 2024? By the way, here's your plane ticket. I'll meet you in Paris. No, of course not. Okay, he's going to be training with the GB setup. So he's going to be relearning some of the things that obviously you don't do as a pro, and vice versa. For one example, a professional boxer, they can fence, as in stick out their lead arm as a way to gauge the distance, all that kind of stuff. And of course, at times, potentially stop their opponents from closing the gap. In the amateurs, you're not allowed to do that. Much like hugging and holding is a big no-no in the amateurs. I mean, listen, you're not really supposed to do it as a pro, but you can kind of get away with it to a certain extent. But there's lots of subtle little differences. There are. So Tyson, I think that he can just adjust back to it, but can he do fast-paced from round 1 to round 3? Tyson is a 12-round fighter, if that makes sense, so he paces himself. But again, listen, it's not like he can just be boarding the plane, go to Paris, and that's it, he's representing Team GB. He's going to have to qualify, okay? You don't just get an automatic pass just because he's a former world champion or anything. It doesn't work that way. He's going to have to qualify with everybody else, okay? He may even have to do the World Championships, the European Championships, these kind of things. Well, I say have to do it, but it's probably best to do it just to reassert yourself back into that system. Now, listen, that was just me with Tyson Fury, of course. It was just like a flash in the moment kind of suggestion. So if any of you can think of anybody who you think should be, and maybe could be there. Now, I don't know whether or not I said it, that I think it was last year, that GB were looking to do it, but professional boxers had to have under 6 professional fights. So, yeah, maybe Tyson is not on board anyway. I mean, maybe he wouldn't want to do it, maybe because he's had more than 6 fights, if that is still the rule. Maybe he's not fitting that criteria is probably the best way to put it. So again, I suppose we'll have to have a look around and see who's who. I say we, not like we're actually selecting it, of course not. But again, I do understand where a lot of people say that pros shouldn't have to do it. But again, in some ways, it might actually be a bit of a disadvantage for them to do it. Because I said there are little differences between the amateurs and the pros. There are. But at the same time, of course, I understand it. You know, they've been already through the amateur system, or at least most boxers have. And of course, they've had an extensive career, not only just a career inside the ring on fight night, but obviously all the sparring and all that kind of stuff with all the different kinds of styles and whatever else. And of course, a lot of them, especially at the top end, only fight like 2 or 3 times a year. Whereas in the amateurs, especially if you're going to reintegrate yourself with it, you're going to have to be fighting, say, I don't know, many times per year. Sometimes 2 or 3 times in one day, you know? So anyway, that's my thoughts. Who do you think that maybe Team GB could be looking at? What prospects do we have that, if the rules are still under 6 pro fights, what kind of fighters do you think GB could select that you think could be a pretty good choice? But anyway, listen, that's my thoughts on this whole situation from Team GB. Apparently, Karis Artingstall and Lauren Price, they will be there as well. Oh, by the way, Team GB will be managing these fighters as well. Okay, coaching and managing during that period. Again, Tyson Fury is no longer with MTK now. Obviously, MTK closing down their doors. Don't know who's going to be managing him anyway from now on. No idea. Anyway, drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.